Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a smile. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, be the reason someone smiles. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a smile. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, be the reason someone smiles. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a smile. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, be the reason someone smile. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a smile. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, be the reason someone smiles. Simcha gedola, liot liot besimcha. Simcha gedola, liot liot besimcha. Simcha gedola, liot liot besimcha. Simcha gedola, liot besimcha. Simcha gedola, liot 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 besimcha. Be the reason someone smiles. 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 Simcha gedola, liot besimcha. Simcha gedola, liot liot besimcha. Simcha gedola, liot liot besimcha. Simcha gedola, liot besimcha.
Breakfast with Elli.
Mode ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechezarta bi nishmati bechemla raba emunatecha.
Noya mavdil ben kodesh lechol.
Good morning and good vach, and welcome to Breakfast with Elli. It is Sunday, the 13th day of November, the 19th day of the month of MarCheshvan, the year 5783, the year of HaKel. The Torah portion is Chaya, HaYom Yom Rishon. The Shabbos, the first day, counting up towards Shabbos, and we'll be learning the first Aliyah. How are you this morning? Shavua Tov, good week. What is new? Yeah, well, that was kind of rhetorical, but, also I want to know. All right, so let me know in the notes. All right, that's a good place to let me know. All right, just want to add this in over here. There we go. All right. Oh, dear, what happened? Why am I stuck here? Okay, that's good. That's good. Good morning, Bashir. How are you? Shavua Tov. Yes, welcome, everybody. Oh, dear, what is going on here? Why am I freezing up? I don't like that at all. All right, well, we'll figure it out. All right, let's begin. Men and boys, take your tzitzis and let's make a bracha on the tzitzis. Ready?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat tzitzit.
All right. Al divrei Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah.
Hareini mekabel.
Hareini mekabel alay mitzvat aseh shel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. I take upon myself every single day to love my fellow friend in a very special way.
All right, Torah Tziva.
Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov. Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov.
All right, time to give tzedakah. Get your pushkas out.
I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else to keep. Yeah, I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else to need.
Over the weekend, our condolences to Bernard on that. I remember her very fondly. Bernard was one of my students back in the 5th grade. Oh, yeah. All right. Let's say the Shema. Are you ready? Right hand over your eyes.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
All right. What's going on here? Okay. Everything is running a little bit slow this morning. All right. That brings us to Shahakol. All right. Get your breakfast, lunch, your dinner, whatever it is, wherever you are, and let's make a bracha together. Ready? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shahakol nihiyah b'dvoroi. Yes.
Coffee, blessed coffee. God bless you for being a friend. When the whole world turns on me, it's only you on which I can depend. I want to taste you in the morning and a few times throughout the day. Yes, a cup or two in the evening too. For me, it's the only way. Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. Today in Jewish history. Today is the artsite of Rabbi Naftali Yitzchak Sigel, the author of Naftali Severatzon in the year 1555. Also, the brother of the Shagas Aryeh was nifter on this day, passed away on this day. This is only the artsites. Where's the history? Hold on one second. I've got the history here somewhere too. Here we are. Got it. All right. Yeah, there it is. All right. The first Jewish neighborhood outside the old walled city of Yerushalayim is dedicated in the year 1860. The site, which was purchased by Sir Moshe Montefiore 5 years earlier, is known as Mishkanot Shar Onanim. Although there was initial resistance by the Jews to leaving the old city walls, it soon led to the establishment of dozens new neighborhoods outside the old city. The Chafetz Chaim completed the last volume of the Mishnah Brura today, marking the culmination of more than 3 decades of toil, and that was in 1906. And in 1940, the United States Census counted 1,750,000 Jews in the United States. The UN General Assembly Resolution 242 was adopted today unanimously by the UN Security Council in the aftermath of the Six-Day War. It called for withdrawal of Israeli armed forces from the territories occupied in the recent conflict and the termination of all claims or states of belligerency. It also called for the recognition of all established states by belligerent parties, meaning Israel, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, of each other, and recognized boundaries for all parties. Yeah, what a joke that was. And yesterday, they voted to censure Israel again. I don't even know what for this time. I stopped reading. I really couldn't. I really couldn't go on. It's kind of ridiculous. 150 communities and day schools across the globe are going to join together in marking the 2nd anniversary of the passing of Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks of blessed memory, the former chief rabbi of Britain. The intercontinental commemoration is being scheduled around the yahrzeit and is being called Communities in Conversation.
Perhaps the most defining feature of my father's life, one that I don't think I fully appreciated until after he died, was that he learned and continued to learn every single day until his last. He learned from books, from text, from laws, he learned from history and from world events, but mainly he learned from people. He would seek out people to learn from every possible path of life, and he would seek out what he could learn from everyone he met. And he would do this through conversation, through talking and listening. So for him, conversation was a defining and spiritual act, a way of opening ourselves up to something beyond ourselves, of being challenged. The only way we could really become more than we were before. A training perhaps for opening ourselves up to God. In this coming week's parasha, Chaya Sarah, we read that before meeting his future wife for the first time, Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach b'sadeh lifnot arev, Yitzchak had gone out in the field before evening to meditate. The Talmud in Brachot, commenting on the choice of the word lasuach, usually meaning to talk or to converse, states, Ein sicha ela tefillah. There is no conversation without prayer, or as my father explains it, conversation is a form of prayer. He writes on this parasha, conversation is a prayer, for in true conversation I open myself up to the reality of another person. I enter his or her world. I begin to see things from a perspective not my own. A genuine, human conversation is a preparation for and a microcosmic version of the act of prayer. Prayer, the prayer model by Yitzchak specifically, is not monologue, but dialogue. prayer as sicha, conversation. So it is fitting that through this initiative, communities in conversation, all over the world, individuals, communities and organizations will mark my father's yahrzeit, not simply from learning from what he wrote, but through conversation, coming together, asking, challenging, listening, and learning from each other. It means more than I can say to us, his family, that you are helping to carry forward his teaching in this beautiful way. You wrote of Moshe's death at the end of the Torah. We will not complete the journey. Therefore, we each must inspire others to continue what we began. Thank you for continuing the work my father began. And may the work he began be a blessing for all of us.
All right. The Rabbi Sachs legacy chief executive, Joanna Benarosh, said, in his memory, we will bring communities and schools together to learn and discuss, sharing his wisdom, his teachings with each other and the world. Communities and Jewish day schools have registered in Israel, the United States, the United Kingdom, Austria, Australia, Bahrain, Indonesia, Kuwait, the Netherlands, Mexico, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to host communal learning sessions to mark the anniversary. The event, being called From Optimism to Hope, offers participants the opportunity to discuss the writings and philosophy of Rabbi Sachs through curated videos and source sheets designed to prompt conversation about the rabbi's view on the differences between optimism and hope and understand its application in our own Torah-filled lives. Much like the presentations given by Rabbi Sachs himself, the multifaceted lesson plan is geared toward spurning discussion amongst learners of all ages and along all religious backgrounds. To know more about this, go to rabbisachs.org, rabbisachs.org. That's S-A-C-K-S, rabbisachs.org. All right, HaYom Yom for today, the 19th day of Cheshvan.
The Alter Rebbe, first Rebbe of Chabad, was once talking about the function, the objective, the goal. What are we trying to accomplish with the teachings of Hasidus? Says the Alter Rebbe, there's a beautiful pasuk that begins as follows: Se'u marom einechem, raise your eyes on high. When something happens to you, this could be something great, something wonderful, or perhaps something very challenging. Hasidus is always there to remind us that the proper response to whatever cards you are dealt is Se'u marom einechem. Raise your eyes on high. Recognize that whatever it is that happens to you, it comes from Hashem. Now, of course, will we always be able to understand Hashem and the way that he operates, the rhyme or reason for what it is that he does? Of course not. But you've got to do the best you can. And Hasidus shows us how our mind can be used as a tool to connect with Hashem, who is truly transcendent.
All right. Fantastic. HaYom Yom. And now, some breaking news. All right, we've already discussed that a common respiratory virus known as RSV is spreading at unusually high levels in the United States and overwhelming children's hospitals. Symptoms may look like the common cold and include runny nose, decreased appetite, coughing, sneezing, fever, and wheezing. But in some children, especially young infants and older adults, RSV can be dangerous, leading to dehydration, breathing trouble, and serious illness. A New York hospital, the Golisano Children's Hospital in Syracuse, ran out of beds and is sending some kids to pediatric hospitals out of town due to an alarming surge in serious RSV cases. So watch your children carefully. The FDA is reviewing an application from Pfizer for a vaccine. The virus typically causes, we said that symptoms already. Pfizer's vaccine candidate is administered to pregnant women who then make antibodies that can protect the baby after birth. In the trial, the vaccine appeared to be about 80% effective at preventing serious RSV disease in infants during the first 3 months of life. All right. Worldwide, RSV causes about 33 million infections in children under the age of 5 and hospitalizes over 3.6 million children annually. And now I'm hearing that it's affecting adults. So, fun times, right? A cruise ship with about 800 COVID-positive passengers docked in Sydney, Australia on Saturday after being hit by a wave of infections. I keep telling you, folks, we are not over this thing yet. The Majestic Princess cruise ship was about halfway through a 12-day voyage when an outbreak of cases was noticed. Carnival Australia President Marguerite Fitzgerald told reporters on Saturday that the ship has 4,600 passengers and crew on board. After mass testing 3,300 passengers, around 800 tested positive for COVID-19, as did a small amount of the crew. All positive cases were mildly symptomatic or asymptomatic, and those guests were isolated in their staterooms and separated from non-impacted guests. Yeah, me, I would stay in my stateroom. Me, I wouldn't have gone to begin with. Cruise operators separately escorted those infected off the ship and advised them to complete a 5-day isolation period. Those who tested negative were permitted to leave the ship and go home. Carnival has advised New South Wales Health that they are assisting passengers with COVID-19 to make safe onward travel arrangements. Later, they said the outbreak was reflective of an increase in community transmission in Australia. Australia has seen an uptick in COVID cases recently, leading to more caution from within the government. The New South Wales Ministry of Health has recorded 19,800 new cases of COVID and 22 deaths just in the past week. Now, the Majestic Princess cruise ship has now departed Sydney on her next voyage to Melbourne and Tasmania. Now, they have made over 50 international and domestic voyages, with the vast majority of more than 100,000 guests unimpacted by COVID. However, the emergence of COVID in the community has meant that we've seen a rise in positive cases over the last 3 voyages. The Majestic Princess is not the first Carnival cruise to be hit by a COVID outbreak. At least 3 other ships within the company's Princess fleet, the Ruby Princess, the Diamond Princess, and the Grand Princess, experienced outbreaks earlier in the pandemic. So yeah, we're not out of the woods yet, okay? Let us keep that in mind. That's really, really important. All right? NASA officials are looking at November 16th as a possible launch date for the Artemis 1 moon rocket, which was on the launch pad last week as Hurricane Nicole made landfall as a Category 1 storm roughly 70 miles south of the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. They just can't get that rocket ship off the ground, can they? And now, a word from our sponsor. And now, a word from our sponsors. PestProRidol.com.
PestProRidol.com, trusted by the best to keep away the pests. We are offering COVID-19 disinfection services. Mention this ad and get 1 month free service. Visit us at PestProRidol.com.
Tarzane Group, micro, miniature, and small orchids. Go to tarzanegroup.com or call Tomas at 305-440-0565. That's 305-440-0565 and order today. Visit Tomas and Yair at tarzanegroup.com. Micro, miniature, and small orchids, beautiful in your home. Go to the website and read Tomas's orchid blog. And by Dina D Design. DinaDDesign@gmail.com. Fine artwork, custom made to your specifications, logos, wall hangings, Judaica, and you can even have something for your child's room. Dina D Designs. Go to her Facebook or Instagram or call or text. Thank you very much to our sponsors. If you'd like to become a sponsor, please go right up here to where it says patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, and you can contribute even only $1 a month if you'd like, but that'll help us bring this broadcast to you on a daily basis and cover our expenses. Be sure to thank your sponsors when shopping and mention Breakfast with Elli when you're shopping there. There might be discounts. Thanks for watching.
Torah, 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 Siva Lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Siva Lanu Moshe.
All right. Patreon.com/theactorsrabbi or breakfastwithelli.live/tipjar for you to become a member. Let's call it that. Become a member of Breakfast with Elli. Oh, I like that. I'm gonna work on that. Become a member of Breakfast with Elli. All right. It is Sunday. On Sunday, we do the name of the Parsha. The burial of Sarah, the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. The name of the 5th book of Genesis is taken from its first words, Chaya Sarah, the life of Sarah, and begins with Sarah's death and burial. We then follow Avram's servant Eliezer, as he betroths Avram's grandniece Rebekah to Avram's son Isaac. This account is followed by that of Yitzchak and Rivka getting married and the closing phases of Avraham's life. His marriage to Hagar a second time, his death, his son Ishmael's departure from the family, and its divine mission. Inasmuch as Chaya Sarah means the life of Sarah, it follows that it's Sarah who is the protagonist, the heroine of this Parsha. Now, at first glance, this seems baffling, since Sarah's life came to an end in the previous Parsha, and Parsha's Chaya Sarah seems to emphasize the finality of her death. Avram must arrange for her burial. He must find a wife for his son to succeed Sarah as the matriarch of the household, and he marries Hagar to have a wife in Sarah's stead. Finally, the Parsha closes by recording the genealogy of Ishmael, whom Sarah had expelled from their home. But in truth, the episodes of this Parsha demonstrate how Sarah's life didn't end with her death. Rather, the influence of the values and ideals that she worked towards throughout her lifetime continued after her death. Avram was the trailblazer in disseminating the awareness of Hashem in the world, as we have seen. But in order to spread the message of monotheism and morality to an idolatrous, immoral world, he had to focus on humanity's great potential, deliberately turning a blind eye to its imperfections. Avram personified the attribute of chesed, giving endlessly and indiscriminately, accepting everyone with unqualified love, seeing them as the best that they can be, regardless of who they are now. Sarah helped Avram spread this message among the world's women with the same undiscriminating eye he used towards the world's men. When Yitzchak was born, and they were entrusted with raising a child who would have the strength to carry on their divine mission, she realized that the universalism would have to be tempered by a discerning particularism. Avram could afford to be unconditionally accepting as long as it was just him and his wife interacting with their audience. But once their mission of disseminating divine consciousness was to be passed on to a family and eventually to a whole people, steps had to be taken to ensure that the message be passed on with uncompromising tahara, purity, direction, and force. All right. Good morning, Skylar. How are you? Thus, Sarah, the mother entrusted with nurturing Avram's successor, undertook to insulate the family from deleterious influences. As soon as Ishmael became just such an influence, and Hagar proved unwilling or unable to check his untoward behavior, Sarah insisted that they both be sent away. Avram was troubled by this, but Hashem settled the matter, instructing Avram to follow Sarah's advice. Avram's universalism is appropriate in its place, but out of place, it becomes counterproductive. A family, or a people, like any living organism, must have well-defined borders. If not, the health and integrity of the entire organism are compromised. Sarah's particularism was thus the next stage in the process of the creation of the Jewish people. Avram initiated the process by reviving the world's awareness of Hashem. Sarah ensured the continuation of this process by defining the parameters of the relationship between Avram's heirs and the world that they were charged to mentor. The lesson of Parshas Chaya Sarah, then, is that universalism must operate hand in hand with particularism. We are all Avrams, charged with the mission of spreading divine consciousness to the whole world. As such, we must always strive to view humanity in the best possible light, and each individual as a precious child of Hashem who deserves our unconditional love and the best that we can give, both materially and spiritually. But concomitantly, we must also be Sarahs, cherishing the integrity of the bearers of the divine message and acutely aware of the fact that Hashem entrusted us with this mission, that we bear the message and that the world is our audience. Wow. There you go. Chaya Sarah, the life of Sarah, which really mostly speaks about the death of Sarah, and that proves to us that a person's life is not over when they die. In the first Aliyah, Sarah dies at the age of 127, and her grieving husband Avram identified a plot in the city of Hebron that he wished to procure for use as a family burial ground. The plot, a cave situated in the field of Machpelah, belonged to Ephron the Hittite. If you remember, when Avram hid in the cave and he smelled the holiness there, it turned out that Adam and Eve, were buried there, and he remembered that and asked for permission to purchase this parcel of land from the tribe of the Hittite. Originally, Ephron wanted to give the plot to Avram as a gift, but Avram insisted on paying full price. The acquisition was concluded with Avram paying 400 premium silver coins. Right? Shnayim Yomi.
Parshas Chaya Sarah, Rishon. Parsha begins, Vayu Chaya Sarah was the life of Sarah, 127 years. Shnei Chaya Sarah was the years of the life of Sarah. Rashi says, why does it repeat the word Shnei Chayisara? Kulan Shavin Latova. They were all equal for good, which is somewhat of a shocking statement. They were all equal for good. Sarah had so much difficulty in her life. She waited so many years to have a child, and then finally she has a child, and all the challenges and everything that Avraham Avinu went through, she went through also. The answer is, it depends on what you consider tov. The Avraham Melech says, until Vani kirvas elokim li tov. Being close to Hashem, that's tov. And through all of her trials and tribulations and challenges of her life, kulan shavin latov, an incredible testament to the greatness of Sarah Imenu. So Avraham Avinu wants to bury Sarah, and he wants to bury her in Maras Machpelah, the place where Adam and Chava were buried. So Avraham Avinu comes and approaches the Bnei Ches. Avraham Avinu says, please give me the portion of land so I can bury my dead. And the Bnei Ches say to Avram, you're a prince of Hashem, which is a testament to the greatness of Avram, that everyone recognized the greatness of Avram. We'll give it to you. Avram Avinu bows before them and he says, if you will do my bidding, likbar es meisi milfanai, to bury my dead one from before me, I want to meet with Ephron ben Sochar. Ephron ben Sochar, who was directly in charge. And it's brought down, Rashi quotes, that they made Ephron ben Sochar in charge because he was in charge of Machpelah. They made him into the leader. And Ephron is a very shady character. Ephron comes across and he says to Avram Avinu, we want to give it to you. Just take it. And Avram Avinu says, no. I want to make sure this is done legitimately, properly, to make sure that I have paid for it, that there can never be complaints later on that I don't own this land. In fact, there's a chazal, there's a medrash that says that there are 3 places in Eretz Yisrael that our enemies can never have a complaint against us. One of them is Maras Machpelah, one of them is Shechem, and the third one is the Harabayas, where David HaMelech bought from Arav Nayavusi, and of course those 3 areas are the most contested. But the bottom line is that this Avram Avinu made sure to pay for it, and he said, I want to pay for it the full measure. And Ephron says, okay, you want to pay the full amount, so why don't you pay a small amount, 400 shekel kesef, which was an exorbitant sum. And Avram Avinu, of course, was willing to pay. Ephron's name is written without a vav over there, and Rashi says, because this was a person that he was Emor Harbe, he spoke a lot, but he did very, very little. And so it's missing from his name. Avram Avinu pays 400 shekel kesef of common currency that could be used anywhere to make sure that the sale is final and legitimate.
All right, a little medrash to go along with the parsha today. Come on. All right, we're having a little bit of a problem here. Software is acting up. We are. The Maras HaMachpelah, the cave of Machpelah, is the oldest Jewish cemetery in the world. It's over 3,700 years old. The first man and woman to be created, Adam and Chava, are buried there. Esav's head is buried there. For 700 years, the Arabs didn't allow the Jews to enter Maras HaMachpelah. But in 1967, the Jews conquered the holy city of Hebron, including Maras HaMachpelah. In the 6-day war with the Arabs, we are fortunate that our generation can go and pray inside. The big building where the people pray is actually built over the cave where our founding fathers and mothers are buried. The entrance to the cave has been sealed for many centuries and is below ground. It is one of our holiest places, and it says in the Medrash that all our souls pass through the cave on their way to heaven. So one day after 120 years, you will get to see the cave. Now, he discovered this cave when the angels came to visit him after he had a bris. But there was a problem. He didn't own the property. The Hittites ruled Hebron at that time, and the law was that land for burial could only be bought by another Hittite. It was illegal to sell land to a foreigner. Avram had to get special permission, and you know the story that we are there. All right. We will talk about more about the Maris HaMachpelah tomorrow and the burial of Sarah a little bit more tomorrow. Now, Rabbi Chaya Martyr.
Boker Tov, good morning. We continue with our 3-minute daily dose of Torah, looking this week at the story of Eliezer, Eved Avraham, Abraham's servant who is sent to find a wife for Yitzchak, going back to Abraham's familial home. So we're told the following in the beginning of Shalishi. He takes 10 camels from his master's camels. Excuse me. He went for Chol Tu Badanav B'Yado, and all the good of his master was in his hand. He went to Naharaim, to the city of Nahor. What does this phrase mean? That he took with him. So we get 10 camels. You know what 10 camels means, right? What does Kol Tu Vadonav mean? All the good of his master. It could be read as Chizkuni says, Perush umikol tov adonav im hasaragim alim. This means along with it. It's not exactly clear what that would mean either. But something along with what follows, that he has klei chesef or klei zahav migdanot, going far ahead. Excuse me for my cough. Into verse 53. Verse 53. It's a very long parak. He took out all manner of silver vessels and golden vessels and garments. He has other things he went to them. Which is actually interpreted to mean Peirot Shel Eretz Yisrael. He brings, Jaffa oranges and I don't know what else for the fruit, sweet, nice gift packages from Israel. And otherwise, he brings her basically what is, the offerings that you would make to the Kala to set up the home. And so that's what he brings to her. That's called Klei Chesed, Klei Zahav, silver and golden vessels. Rashi here says something different. According to Midrash, V'chol tu v'adonav v'yado shtar matana. In his hand, he had a document of that regarding the possessions. What are they? Shtar matana katali Yitzchak. Avram had written an official document giving over in his life to his son a kol asher lo. All of my possessions I give over to you. So that, look, if people see that Avram was a very wealthy man, you obviously could not really put kol tu badonav in his hands, all the good of his master in his hands. Okay, you might have samples of it in the silver and gold vessels, but no, in this case, it actually is in his hand. The document which says that Yitzchak inherits or receives all of his master's wealth, and that will be a good enough reason for somebody to consider him for a shidduch. He's a wealthy man. That is one reason sometimes people do gravitate towards such a shidduch. We'll continue tomorrow to talk more about Eliezer's journey to find the wife.
All right. I think it's time for our Parsha report. Here we go.
Good evening. Some solemn news today. This week in the Torah portion Chaya, our matriarch Sarah passed away. We go now to Jono, who will give us an on-location retrospective on the life of one of our most influential ancestors. Jono.
Thank you, Rabbi. I'm standing here on the Lower East Side of New York, where our great-great-great-great-grandparents, Abraham and Sarah, lived humble and poverty-stricken lives. Right down the street from my favorite pizza stand.
Lower East Side Pizza?
Yes. They moved here shortly after arriving on Ellis Island, where their names were changed to Mr. and Mrs. Sidney Minkowitz.
Jono, I don't think it's possible that Abraham and Sarah lived in New York.
You know, Rabbi, back then, it was called Old York.
That doesn't make any sense. Jono, where did you get your facts?
Like any responsible journalist, I'm making them up as I go along. This is a photograph of an early electric sewing machine used by Sarah day and night to sew matzo ball soup for her family.
Sewing soup?
Sewing soup?
Sewing soup.
Sewing soup?
Sewing soup.
Sewing soup, Rabbi? Don't be ridiculous. You can't sew soup. She was sewing matzo balls in the tenement directly behind her.
Jono, Sarah was born 1,958 years after creation. I think you have your history completely mixed up.
1958, eh? The Minkowitzes were born in 1928. I guess I was thinking the wrong era. All right, let me revise. Roy, scratch the Lower East Side background. Okay, great. Could you bring up a stock image of Miami? Fantastic. Great job, Roy. You're a wizard. Never change. I'm standing here now, live, on location in Miami, where our ancestors, Abraham and Sarah, are enjoying being empty nest snowbirds in the condo behind me. And you'll understand why they chose Sunny Meadows condominiums when you see the pool.
Jono, you're still way off. Sarah passed away 3,681 years ago.
What? Thousands of years ago?
Yeah, 3,681 years ago.
3,000 years ago? That's like a bajillion years ago. By definition, that is not news. It's old. It's boring. It's old, boring, and irrelevant. My career as a journalist has been compromised. Why are we even talking about this?
Jono, the stories of our matriarchs and patriarchs aren't just lessons we can learn from, but rather they're a part of our spiritual genetics. The way Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah acted, their kindness to others, and their devotion to God and Torah is an inheritance passed down to us to this day. It's what gives us the strength and ability to have such devotion as well.
So, in the same way I inherited my black beady eyes from my mom, in a way, I've inherited my Jewish identity from my ancestors?
Very good, Jono. And that's why it's so important that we acknowledge and remember their lives the same way we would those of our own family.
Oh, man. I owe Sarah like a bajillion years worth of birthday presents.
Well, it looks like we're out of time. Good night, and good luck.
Roy, could you please bring up the image of the mall? I have a lot of shopping to do. Nice work, Roy. Nice work.
Crazy funny. Crazy, crazy funny. All right, moving on to Tehillim. All right, chapter 121, here we go. right, Tanya, for today, the 19th day of Cheshvan.
Thank you for joining Tanya in 5. Today's lesson for the 19th of Cheshvan. We begin the 29th letter of Igeres HaKodesh. In this letter, we're speaking about Jewish law, halachas, and how they are the crown of Torah. Beginning with a quote, "A woman of valor is the crown of her husband." Metaphorically, a woman refers to the oral Torah, and husband refers to the written Torah. The husband is the seed, the seminal seed, the kernel, the seminal thought, rather, and the woman now takes that thought and develops it, and that is the oral Torah that develops the written word. The Talmud tells us that he who makes use of the crown, referring to Jewish law, passes away. This means someone who makes use of Jewish law, the crown of Torah, in other words, for their own self-aggrandizement and the like, not favored by heaven. And it is taught in the academy of Aliyah of the prophet, that whoever repeats halachis, Jewish law, is assured to have a place in the world to come. And we need to understand, why are halachas, Jewish law, referred to as the crown of the Torah? And also, why is it that if someone repeats Jewish law, that they are assured a place in the world to come? Why not with other subjects of Torah, whether it's the written Torah of Chumash, for example, or other areas of the oral Torah that are not Jewish law specific? Furthermore, what we need to understand, the saying of the sages that says that even if one learned a single chapter in the morning, one has fulfilled one's duty. Why is one's duty fulfilled only through the chapter of Jewish law and not other subjects? So, however, to understand this, we need to quote teachings from Rabbi Isaac Luria, the Arizal, that says that every soul needs to be reincarnated many times until that soul has fulfilled 613 commandments of the Torah, both in thought, in speech, and in action. So if you do something in action and you are mindless about it and not in your thought, you're engaged in, you're putting on tefillin, for example, you need to engage also in your thought. If you didn't make the blessing over it, let's say, so you need to also make the blessing over the mitzvah. And why is that? Because the garments of the soul need to be complete, or they need to be corrected. If they're missing a garment, that soul needs to come back in order to have a complete soul full of its garments. That's except for those mitzvahs that are upon a king, that a king fulfills it for the entire Jewish people, and therefore, aside from that, the rest of the commandments a person needs to fulfill all of them. And again, the soul needs to be garbed with 600 aspects of the powers of one's soul, and not one of them should or shall be lacking. So an explanation for the necessity and the need of these garments is given in the Zohar. In other words, why is our soul, does it necessitate to be garbed with all these mitzvahs, 613, in thought, speech, and action? Well, the soul, the three elements of the soul that are created elements are called nefesh, ruach, and neshama. It is impossible for any creature to attain an apprehension of their creator, even after God radiates his light from him and an immense contraction to such a way that the soul yet would not be able to endure, because the light of God is so good and is so sweet. It's an infinitely immense delight, and it's not capable of absorbing the light of God. How then can the soul have its fulfillment? How can it be garbed with a light of God that it should have its fulfillment? Well, the way it is through a greater contraction, until evolves a very minute radiation by the evolution of many contractions that creates a single garment. A single garment that now that garment garbs the nefesh, ruach, and neshama of the soul. This garment which is like a light that is enclothing the soul. Now the soul can derive an enjoyment from that ray of light and apprehend it without being nullified as a result of the result of that light. What is that garment? That garment is a mitzvah. So that mitzvah is a ray of light that garbs our soul. That it is a contraction of the infinite light of God that is so sweet, that is contracted to such a manner that now it can garb us and therefore bring fulfillment to our soul. This is analogous as like someone looking through a speculum, and through the speculum you get, rather looking at the sun through the speculum, so the sun that's very bright and you're not be able to look at it directly because it's blinding, but through the speculum it now diffracts the light that you're able to be able to absorb that light. This is similar to what's written about Moses. It says that he entered, and when he went up to heaven, into a cloud. He ascended, and he was vested himself in the cloud as he ascended, and he saw by way of the cloud divinity. And that is Tanya 5. Thank you for joining.
All right, and that takes us to the Sefer HaMitzvahs of the Rambam. Hold on. There we go. All right, Sefer HaMitzvahs. Oh man, this computer.
No, it's not impossible that ever did say. Just study Rambam each and every day. I'll never miss my daily Rambam. My Rebbe so desires. I'm not busy or too tired when I learn Rambam. Connected, I remain. I am a link in the Rebbe's golden chain.
All right, we are doing Mitzvah Minute 179 today.
Today we review yesterday's mitzvah, negative mitzvah 114, the prohibition against shearing animals designated as a sacrifice. Then, those studying 3 chapters a day of Mishnah Torah conclude today the 8th book of the Rambam and begin the 9th. The 9th book is known as Korbanos, which means sacrifices, and discusses the laws of individual sacrifices versus the last book, which discussed the communal ones. And we begin with positive mitzvah number 55, the commandment that on the eve of Pesach, every Jew is to bring a Passover offering of a sheep or a goat. Negative mitzvah number 115 is that this Pesach offering may not be offered if a person owns any chametz, any leaven, in his property. Negative mitzvah number 116 is that the portions of the Passover sacrifice that are to be offered on the altar must not be left overnight, so that they would become nosar, leftover meat, and would cause them to have to be burnt. Similar to the way that we have an obligation to separate 1/10 of our produce every time it grows, every year there's a positive...
That's it. Sorry, you don't get more than that today. All right, Matters of Mashiach. Just get to my page over here because I lost it for a second there. All right, for today, the 19th day of Cheshvan, you are children to Hashem, your God. It says that in the book of Devarim. A child is an extension of the father, so in essence, they are one. Mashiach requires that we reveal the godly essence of our identity when we are one with Hashem. So long as godliness, Torah, and mitzvahs remain separate from us, we do not attach our essence and inner selves to the divine service. Therefore, to bring Mashiach, we must not only learn and understand, but also internalize and experience Torah and mitzvahs with pleasure and joy, like a son serving the father out of love. Here's Shmultzvi. Okay, I guess he had nothing to say today. That was very strange. All right, RPSAs. Good morning, Paul.
Yom Dalet Parshas Vayayro, die wachtige Parsche, Avrum Avini, weißt du, weiß der Masbia-Logo hat auf sich, der gezelt von Avrum Avini, jetzt gehen wir in der Fieste von Avrum Avini. Der Gedanke ist, dass Chaya sein, so viel hinderte Spuches jeden Tag, wenn man sich Woche kommen raus, tausende Spuches, wo kommen zu essen, Masbia, jede Nacht ist durch Nachtmul in Masbia, und versteht sich auch, du siehst das Shabbos in Yom Tov Masbia, in Tafel der Eulen sollen uns heraushelfen, so man können gehen in der Fieste von Avrum Avini. Jeder eine soll dem Schiss, als ich mich Statel sein, so fehlt sich aus als Schachessen, der Eulen weiß, der Kost von Essen ist sehr groß, es kann sich im Statel sein, im Chaya sein, a Schuchen, einer auf der Block, es ist auch ein Gas im Bauernpark, wo es der Biederman nicht in, da habe ich dir helfen, dem Schiss, und alle Jiden haben, a Chubes Adas, und das Sach nachher, Gesinterei.
All right, Must. 726-879. Text the word food, and you can get 7 days worth of pantry food and hot meals every single day. Flatbush, Borough Park, and Queens, serving inside so you don't have to stand outside in the rain and the cold. In Rockland County, it's tomcheshabbos.org. Let me make that clear for you. tomcheshabbos.org. All right. Hold on. Come on, computer. It's the hard drive. Hard drive is really slow today. And in Chicago, it's the Chicago Center Kitchen at breakfastwithelli.live/Chicago Food Bank. Oh, there's the Rockland County again. All right. Don't forget our master list at breakfastwithelli.live/soup kitchens, breakfastwithelli.live/soup kitchens, and achiezer.org. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week for all of your needs, as is Hatzalah EMS at any of these phone numbers or at hatzalah.org worldwide. Miss Askim, a wonderful organization bringing you bereavement care. Before, after, during, they have it all. And JustOneShabbos.com, bringing Israeli and American youth back to the beauty of keeping Shabbos. Victims of or witnesses of, God forbid, hate crimes should call 911 immedily. And you're still hearing that we are in the throes of a COVID outbreak.
Wear a mask.
It's
Is this
better.
really
Baruch
much to
Hashem,
ask?
gotten
Tie
better.
some fabric
We're
round
going
your
out,
face.
not
Oh, it's
getting
the
sick,
simplest
but
of
people
tasks.
still are
At the
getting
gym, at the
especially
store.
people that are
Don't
going
treat it like such
to
a chore.
enclosed areas with many, many people are getting sick. Don't be one of those people, all right? Get yourself vaccinated against everything, because there are so many vaccinations now. Just get yourself vaccinated against everything, and that way you can be protected, all right? And stay up to date with the vaccines. All right, let's bring some heaven down. People think that the truth, you have to pulverize boulders, move mountains, turn the world upside down. Not so. Truth is found in the little things. On the other hand, to move a mountain takes dynamite, bulldozers. To do one of those little things can take a lifetime of work. You can learn and meditate and pray, prove yourself in ways that you know how, and Hashem will help that what you do on a high. In the meantime, if you want to talk about it with me, come to me on social media. The Actors Rabbis groups at Clubhouse, Facebook, Instagram, link on my Telegram, Twitter, WhatsApp, or at theactorsrabbi.com. Yeah, we're still on Twitter. I'm still waiting to see what's happening with that. And in the meantime, I still have to watch me on Twitter live. So I don't want to cut them off. All right? Although I heard yesterday that Playbill that's said bye-bye birdie and left Twitter. All right. Life coaching services at theactorsrabbi.com are available on a sliding scale should you need to avail yourself of them. Right? All right. Here's an extra bracha. Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam boirei nefashos rabois v'chesronan al kol ma sheborosa lachayos bohem nefesh kol chai baruch chai ha'olamim. All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Spitzer, Bracha, Biederman. You should become a Patreon sponsor today. Become a member of Breakfast with Elli. Go to patreon.com/theactorsrabbi or breakfastwithelli.live/tipjar. All right. We've got another Shlomo Carlebach cover for you from Moshe Auslander. I know. Kasher Dibarta. You're gonna love this one. He did a really good job in redoing a Shlomo Carlebach classic. All right. Tonight is the yahrzeit of Rabbi Dr. Lord Jonathan Sacks. All right. Please do something in his memory, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow. All right, because it's an important day, and we'll learn some special stuff in his memory. Okay, yeah. All right. So, Emmanuel, there'll be a replay of this afterwards. All right. All right. Go out there and make it a great day. Go out and do something nice, something good for someone today. In the words of Rabbi Isaac Hamler, have affection for a fellow. Hashem will have affection for you. Do a kindness for a fellow. Hashem will do a kindness for you. Befriend a fellow, and Hashem will befriend you. Thank you for listening. Bring someone to watch and listen with you tomorrow. Kasher Dibarta, as he said. Bye.
Benachemim etoshuv v'si shekayim misoyecha kasher dibarto Yerushalayim mirecha benachemim etoshuv v'si shekayim misoyecha kasher dibarto Yerushalayim mirecha benachemim etoshuv v'si shekayim misoyecha kasher dibarto Yerushalayim mirecha benachemim etoshuv v'si shekayim misoyecha kasher dibarto Uvinei 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 yisa Uvinei yisa mekara b'yameinu b'inyan eila Uvinei 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 yisa Uvinei yisa mekara b'yameinu b'inyan eila Aiti 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 la 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 Yerushalayim mirecha benachemim etoshuv v'si shekayim misoyecha kasher dibarto Shalayim mirecha benachemim etoshuv v'si shekayim misoyecha kasher dibarto Uvinei 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 yisa Uvinei yisa mekara b'yameinu b'inyan eila Uvinei 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 yisa Uvinei yisa mekara b'yameinu Tati, just build it. Kasher dibarto, like you said. Tati, like you promised. So Chavre, let's dive in together. Let it be today, let it be today. Kasher dibarto, like you promised, Tati. like you say.